Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Local News. There are 10 new cases of COVID-19 in Saskatchewan. 6 are in Saskatoon, 2 in the Central West Zone, 1 in the North Central, and 1 each in South and Central regions. All of Saskatoon's active cases and several other cases are related to out-of-province travel. A total of 36 cases are considered active, 5 of those in the area. That includes Lloydminster and North Battleford. 2 people are in hospital, 1 of those in intensive care. 3 more people are listed as recovered. The Rona store in Lloydminster will be raising money all month for their Hero campaign, and all the proceeds will be going towards the Lloydminster Region Health Foundation's Project Sunrise. Jace Mackey spoke with the project captain to learn more.
I'm joined today by Clint Murray. He is the project captain for the Heroes campaign here in the Lloydminster store. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me today, Clint.
You bet.
So just starting off, can you just tell me a little bit about the campaign? How does it work and stuff like that?
So the Lowe's Canada Heroes campaign is a nonprofit organization-based fundraiser that's across all of Canada from coast to coast with 287 participating stores and warehouses across Canada. So it's just our way to give back to the communities that we serve.
So how are people able to take part in this campaign?
You could just come on down to the store and you can donate actually as little or as much as you want, and everything goes to the Project Sunrise at the Prairie North Health Region.
So are people able to just come in and make a donation, or is it something where they have to buy it and then they're prompted to make a donation with a purchase?
I'm sure anybody can come down, make a donation, but yes, they'll be prompted every time they make a purchase.
And how did you decide who you were going to donate the money to at the end of the day?
Every year we make a decision with Lowe's Canada's Heroes campaign program on a nonprofit organization. And with the stigma on health these last few months to a while, we figured that this might have been a good way to give back to our community on maybe not specifically a COVID issue, but and maybe there is a spin-off from COVID with mental health, but it was a good, we figured it was a good spot to start with the pillar of the Regional Health Foundation. And it's a big project. It's that they've taken on, and they're doing an awesome job on it. It's actually a $1 million endowment on the Lloydminster community and district area to try to tackle something that's, I guess, been, in my opinion, lacking in the community for some time. So great that the Health Foundation's taken upon themselves to tackle this and see what we can achieve.
And has the Rona Lloydminster store done this campaign before?
Yes, we have.
And I understand that Rona at the end of the day is going to be matching all these donations. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yes, they'll donate up to 50% of the proceeds, up to $2,000. And that's per location across Canada. So out of 287 or 235 organizations, it adds up across Canada.
And what does it mean for you to be able to, in a small way, give back to your community and help with Project Sunrise?
Well, I think it's about finding our spot in the community and doing our part. And when we discussed the Project Sunrise, we figured this was a good way to hit every age. Anybody can suffer from a mental illness from a very, very young age right to a very old age. So we figured that the scope was very wide and it was a good fit for this year's organization.
And when you were deciding which foundation to give the money to, you decided to give it to the Lloydminster Regional Health Foundation. Did you want to give it to Project Sunrise to begin with, or did you kind of discuss with the Health Foundation the best place for that money to go?
Well, we had an idea on the Project Sunrise, but we did contact the Regional Health Foundation and talk to where we could possibly send some of these funds to, and that seemed to be the best fit for Lowe's Canada.
Thanks for taking some time to talk with me today. I understand the campaign goes all of September, so I wish you guys the best of luck as you hope to raise money for the Lloydminster Regional Health Foundation.
Thank you.
An upcoming artist here in Lloydminster just released her latest single called All You've Done. Our Shelby Clark chatted with her for more details about her experience on this successful journey.
I'm joined here today with Eleni Young, an up-and-coming young artist here in Lloydminster. How are you today?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing very good. I wanted to start off with saying how inspiring it is to see a local resident that's on her way to reaching her dreams. How many songs do you have out now?
So I have 3 that I've released in the past year. And I do have an EP out that I released in 2016, I think, or 2015. I'm actually not sure. 2015, I think. So I think I have 8 songs out in total.
Okay, and can you tell us about your newest single you've just released called All You've Done?
Yeah, so I wrote this song with some fellow songwriter worship leaders in Nashville a year ago to the day that I released it, actually, August 28th, 2019. I headed down there for a weekend retreat with some really awesome songwriters in the gospel music industry. And this is one that we came up with basically just being thankful, because I think that there's a lot of songs, especially in the worship movement right now, where there's a lot of songs that are just sort of me-centered. And I guess the point of a worship song is to not be me-centered. So I loved the concept of this song. It was just kind of relatable to everyone, and it's a bop. Like, it's so fun to sing to. It's stuck in my head all the time. I can't even help but just hum it all day long. So yeah, I recorded it. We cut a demo, and then I brought it to my producer in Florida. And I just said, what do you think of this? He laid down the craziest track on it that I didn't really hear at first. And then we went from there. We added some really cool background vocals. We added some horns. Yeah, we just made it sound really cool. So yeah, that's kind of the story of this song.
And what exactly inspired you to get into gospel kind of music?
Honestly, I've had a really interesting road to walk, and I've seen the goodness of God in my life in like the craziest ways. And so it's hard for me to not want to do something about it. And ever since I was young, I was a writer and a singer. I didn't always write music. I would often write poems and stories. And then as I grew older and I was becoming more well-versed in piano playing, I started to put them together. And yeah, I've been songwriting for probably about 10 years or so. And probably 6 of those years have been strictly gospel music. I used to write about pretty much anything, which is still something that I like to do, but nowadays it's more generated for potentially an album or a project, so it's all gospel.
Okay, and in those 10 years and the 6 years that you've been into gospel music, have you been getting lots of support from residents all around? Like, I've seen lots of locals that have been in that new music video you released, and it was just really interesting to see. So I just wanted to know if you've received lots of support so far.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been a little bit underground about it. My studio, my support system, my people, so to speak, are all in the States. I travel there to write, or I Skype with them or Zoom write. My studio is in Florida, so it's just all of my people, it feels like, are down in the States, and I just don't really talk about it here much. My family has obviously been ridiculously supportive in the journey, and making sure that it was, if it's something that I really wanted to do, that they would make sure that it was happening for me. As far as other local people, it's honestly, I've been really quiet about it. I've had quite a bit of support since the first one I released last August. It's called Greater Works. That one came out, and I got a lot of support from local friends from that, and it just kind of keeps snowballing. This one obviously is the most locally involved song that I've released, just because of the video. I got to work with Kim Capperell, Brittany Murphy, and just the craziest team. And they pulled some local people to be in the video, and it was completely local. It was actually even styled by, I know this isn't totally local, but by an Edmonton store that I love. They styled the shoot, and it was cool just to have sort of a home experience for once, because it seems like most of the experiences I've had with music are based in the States. So yeah, I feel like this song has seen a lot of local support for sure.
And can you kind of explain more on some obstacles? Like if you had any obstacles during your journey so far in the music industry?
Um, that's a tough one. I think it's all kind of an obstacle in a way. You can only go as far as you're willing to invest in yourself, whether you're in gospel or you're in secular music industry. If you think that you're worth investing in, then people will see that. And so I think one of the biggest obstacles for me was just valuing my gift and understanding, okay, you're not, you know, it's not something you like to do. It's not something that you do in your spare time. It's something that you're completely passionate and head over heels about. And so I had to take the initiative to be like, okay, if I want to do this, then I have to basically jump off the deep end and go all in. And so in 2017, I competed in a songwriting competition in Nashville with the GMA, the Gospel Music Association. And I won. I was the songwriter of the year. And that was something for me that was like validating. Like I was like, okay, yeah, people are willing to invest. Like I got an A&R package, and I got to attend the Dove Awards and present an award at the award show. And it was just all these really cool things that maybe seemed sort of materialistic and petty at the time, but I really needed that season to solidify the fact that, okay, if you want to do something, then you really just have to go for it. And to me, that was a moment where I felt like I had accomplished something and that I could kind of keep going from there. So
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and best of luck to you in the future.
thank you so much.
Now our Connor Chan will take a look at your weather forecast.
All right, thanks very much, Jasmine. Taking a look at temperatures right now, a little bit warmer to what we saw yesterday, sitting right now at 19 with some sun and cloud mixes in the area right now. We still see a bit of wind though coming in from the west-northwest at that over 30 kilometers an hour right there, but the wind should die down by tomorrow as we're just less than 20 kilometers an hour. But take a look at some other temperatures in our region right now. 20 degrees in Vermilion, 17 out in Vegreville, 18 for Edmonton. We also see 19 degrees in both St. Paul and Bonnyville and Lac La Biche as well. 18 degrees up in Cold Lake, 19 also for Pierceland, as well as in Provost, Macklin, and in North Battleford. 18 degrees out in Maidstone, while we see 17 in St. Walburg and 15 degrees in Isle La Crosse. And here's what we could see on the satellite radar map over the next couple of hours. Edmonton could be getting some of that showers continuing on. So a little bit of cloud coverage as it starts to thinning out a little bit, as we will possibly getting some rain later on into the week, possibly even into the weekend as well, later on in the weekend though. But for those that are going out tomorrow or Saturday to go enjoy the long weekend just before the new school year starts. But as we take a look at temperatures, North Battleford overnight 6 degrees with some cloud coverage, and then 21 tomorrow with daytime high with those suns and cloud mixes continuing on. Overnight in Cold Lake 6 degrees as well, but a little bit clearer skies sitting at 21 as well, with that window kind of calming down a little bit from over 30 to now sitting at 13 kilometers an hour. And for us here in Lloydminster, we'll see a 7-degree high overnight tonight, as well as the same results in terms of sun and cloud mix as Cold Lake for tomorrow, with mostly sun and a few clouds in the daytime. So here's what we could see over the weekend though. We will start to get a little cloudier and a little cooler as we head into the Sunday, Monday areas there. So 22 degrees on Saturday, what we could see. So some cloud coverage will continue on into that weekend. So 22, as I mentioned there, for Saturday. 15, we get a little bit cooler on Sunday there as we drop down to that degree mark there, as well as a low of 10 on both Saturday and Sunday as well. That is a first look at your weather forecast. We'll have more primetime local news coming up after the break.
Welcome back. Funding through the Canadian Agricultural Partnership will expand the University of Calgary's Diagnostic Service Unit, expanding disease monitoring in livestock. Eric Bay has more on what this means for livestock producers in Alberta.
The pilot program will add researchers and equipment, enhancing disease diagnosis and welfare, something Alberta's livestock producers are looking forward to after the province's comprehensive veterinary diagnostic service was ended in 1995.
We used to have a really impressive network of diagnostic services and laboratories here in Alberta, but when funding for these collapsed about 25 years ago, producers were really left with limited options to manage animal health. This pilot project and the investment is really a first step towards reinstating a really basic level of diagnostic services.
Research will also be done at the farm level, getting to the root of certain diseases livestock producers are facing in the province.
They do say that they will be looking at some disease investigation on farm as well, which is something that we haven't had in any formal way in Alberta for a really long time. And it's something that served other provinces such as Saskatchewan very well.
Alberta Beef Producers is hoping the program will allow for a better understanding of diseases and get ahead of any future outbreaks.
Emerging diseases or re-emerging diseases or just weird things that happen that we probably should be aware of but have no way of tracking or knowing about at this stage in the game. So I think this is a really good first step towards having a more comprehensive diagnostic and surveillance support system in the province.
The University of Calgary is expected to begin the pilot program in October. Eric Bay, Primetime Local News.
Now we'll take a look at your ag prices. Years after starting his AJHL career, one former player is moving from the ice to behind the bench. Evan Kenny has more on the Brooks Bandits' new assistant coach in this week's Around the AJHL.
I'm pleased to be joined today by 2012-2013 AJHL champion, as well 2012-2013 RBC Cup champion, and current Brooks Bandits assistant coach, Taylor Macon. Taylor, thank you for taking this time. You spent a couple years in the WHL before you came back to the AJHL as a 20-year-old. Just tell me, from the start of that season, did you expect your team to do as well as you guys did?
No, not at all. Obviously, personally, my goal was to stick in Vancouver and try and play in the Western League as an overager, but that didn't work out. And if I could go back and rewrite it, I wouldn't have changed a thing. Getting to come to Brooks my 20-year-old year and playing with the guys we had and the team we had, it was a ton of fun and obviously a ton of good experiences and got to win some games. So I wouldn't have changed anything for the world, that's for sure.
And Taylor, when was that point that you realized, okay, we could do this? We could make a run at the championship once again?
It was actually pretty early on. My first week there, they were rated first in the country the week before, and we never lost that spot all season. So I think that was the mindset of the coaching staff and the returning players from the year before was, kind of anything short of a national championship would almost be a failure for us. So I would say right from the get-go, that was the goal.
So between your team in 2012, 2013, and as well the 2011, 2012 team, you were sort of part of that dynasty of what we know as the Brooks Bandits today. How does it feel just being a part of that?
Super cool. It was a lot of fun. A lot of guys came before me and before our team as well that kind of paved the way for us. And I'm just glad that we were able to, have some success and that they've been able to, Pap and everyone else in Brooks has been able to continue that throughout the years. It's been great.
Now, after you finished your junior career, you went on to play for 5 seasons with the Acadia Axemen before going pro. Just tell me how you got those pro tryouts just from the beginning.
So following Acadia, the coaching staff there was great and they had a lot of connections overseas. So they put me in touch, with some people in France, and I was able to sign a contract there and go over there for a year. And that was a ton of fun, a really cool experience. Following that, I was kind of unsure. I thought it might be time to hang them up. And as the summer went along, I still had the itch. So I signed a contract in Poland. Didn't work out, ended up staying in North America and signing in Evansville. And I had a ton of fun down there, met a lot of great people down there, which was super cool. And then yeah, halfway through the year, it was I got an opportunity to make a career change, I guess, and it was just too good an opportunity to say no to.
And as you mentioned, obviously a bit of a crazy shift going from on the ice to now behind the bench. Did you ever expect to become a coach? And just take me through that process of joining Grand Prairie.
Yeah, so my one of my good friends from back home, Ryan Aisman, ended up taking over Grand Prairie halfway through last year, and he was looking for a guy. And we had always kind of discussed, before I'd kind of said when I'm done playing, I would like to, give coaching a go. And it's kind of always been in the back of my mind, something that I thought I might be interested in doing. And and he was kind of in the beginning of his coaching career. He was, coaching midget AAA in Lethbridge and all that stuff. So when he got that job, he called and asked if I'd be interested. And I said, it was a pretty easy decision for me to go and work with him for sure.
Now, as I mentioned, you are a current assistant coach with the Brooks Bandits. Does it speak volumes to Brooks and the organization for yourself coming back to the organization?
Yeah, I mean, when they made the coaching change in Grand Prairie, and kind of talking with Pap, and he said that there might be an opportunity here for me to come in and coach, and I'm just super grateful and super lucky that worked out. And yeah, it's cool that it's come full circle, and to be able to come back to a place like Brooks. I mean, it's probably one of the top junior programs in Canada or North America for that matter. So it's a pretty special place to come to work every day.
And then final question, Taylor, I know it's a bit of a crazy year and it won't be quite the same season of play, but how do you think the Brooks Bandits are going to be looking this upcoming season?
It'll be interesting. We got a lot of good, recruits coming into camp, and we got a fairly big camp going. So next 2 weeks, we're going to do a regular camp, with some inter squad games and practices and stuff like that. And then as we get going from that 2 weeks, we'll get into our development season. So but I'm excited to work with this group. I feel like some of our guys coming in are going to be able to, have some good seasons in this league. We had a couple commits who need, a good development year at junior. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Taylor, I appreciate you taking this time. This was Taylor Macon.
No, thanks, Evan. Thanks for the call.
Now our Connor Chan will take a look at your weather forecast.
All right, thanks very much, Jasmine. Taking a look at temperature, still sitting at that 18-degree mark right now for us here in Lloydminster as we move up into the northern and a little bit out west there. Cold Lake, Meadow Lake, and Athabasca all sitting at 19 degrees, along with Edmonton, Edson, and Rocky Mountain House. It's a little bit cooler out in Jasper. It's at 16 degrees, and we see 20 degrees right now in Red Deer. Over in Saskatchewan right now, a little bit warmer as we see a little similar temperature, with 19 in North Battleford, 20 in Saskatoon, and then 18 in both Melfort and in Prince Albert. Over up north in Saskatchewan and Alberta, 17 we see Fort Lache and Buffalo Narrows there. La Ronge at 16 right now, 12 in South End and Flin Flon there. A little bit still cooler in the Stony Rapids and Walston Lake areas, sitting at 10 and 11 degrees. Over in the northern Alberta areas right now, some are a little bit warmer compared to what we saw yesterday there. Grand Prairie at 21 right now, with Slave Lake at 18, Peace River at 19, along with High Level, and 12 degrees right now for Fort McMurray, so still fairly cool there, and then 15 degrees up in Fort Chipeway. The southern areas, the temperatures still continue to be kind of in the higher 20s area in areas like Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, and 27 and 26 degrees. 24 in Calgary right now, 18 for Banff, and 19 degrees for Coronation there. Over in southern Saskatchewan, it's a little bit cooler compared to what we see in some cities in southern Alberta there. 20 out in Moose Jaw with Kindersley at 20 degrees. 21 right now for Swift Current and Esteban. 19 right now we see in Regina. Now, as we take a look at temperatures across the country right now, a little bit of cloud coverage playing a factor in most cities across the country there, as we see Edmonton and Regina have with some cloud coverage, a little bit of sun. We see a little bit of cloud coverage as well out in Winnipeg at 18, Quebec City at 21, Toronto sitting at 27 right now, Halifax with some fog right now at 20 degrees, St. John's at 16 right now, and then Vancouver we see right now a little bit of sunshine. They're still in that 19 to 20 degree range as well. Yellowknife sitting at 12 degrees right now, and Whitehorse sitting at 16. Now, as we look ahead for tomorrow, we will have some nice temperatures, for us here as we, of course, get ready for the long weekend there. So we'll be at 21 degrees is what we'll see for us here in Lloydminster, as well as in the immediate areas in Vermilion, Marwayne, and Maidstone as well. 24 down in Provost and Macklin for tomorrow. Vegreville also sitting at 21 tomorrow. Edmonton at 22. We'll see 20 in St. Paul, and Lac La Biche sitting at 19 degrees. We will see 21 also for Maidstone, North Battleford as well. And then Meadow Lake, Green Lake, and St. Walbert all seeing a 20-degree mark for tomorrow. So here's what we could see over the next 7 days. Cloud coverage will continue on into Friday, Saturday. 22 degrees a daytime high for Saturday, and then 15 on Sunday. We'll get a little bit cooler on Monday, as we are going to see our first single-digit daytime high there in a long time at Monday, with mostly clear skies and a few clouds. And then first day of school on Tuesday, a low of 0 degrees to start the day. We could see some rain possibly on Monday as well to follow on that, and then 17 on Wednesday, and then 21 degrees with clear skies on Thursday. That's a look at your 7-day forecast. We'll have more primetime local news after this break.
I'm joined here with Matt Hughes, and he's a Canadian author. Now, you were recently introduced into the Canadian Science Fiction and Fantasy Hall of Fame. What does this acknowledgement mean to you?
Well, it means I'm definitely a science fiction and fantasy author, which is not what I set out to be. I set out to be a crime writer, but people kept offering me contracts and said, if you know, write us a science fiction or a fantasy book and we'll publish it and give you money. So I did. And 20 years have gone by, and now I have about 20 science fiction and fantasy novels and a bunch of short story collections. And somebody noticed and said, well, we should put him in the Hall of Fame because he's done an awful lot. Yep.
And this Hall of Fame has some pretty big names, including David Cronenberg and William Gibson and more. So what does it mean for you to see your name alongside some of these people?
Well, I guess it's a validation. Feels nice. Doesn't make me rich, but you don't get rich in this business anymore. It feels good. I mean, I spent all my life as a professional writer. I was a speechwriter for years and years, 30 years in BC, and before that I was a speechwriter for federal cabinet ministers. So getting on towards the end of all of this and getting nominated and inducted into the Hall of Fame, well, it's sort of a good capstone.
And another one of your works, A God and Change, was also shortlisted for an Alberta Book Publishing Award. So a lot of your work is being recognized. And how does it feel to know that it is being recognized and a lot of it is being seen by other authors and people out there?
Well, it feels good. It definitely does. The A God in Chains was produced by Edge Publishing of Calgary. And it's my first book with them. I've known the publisher there for 20 years. I used to edit books for him occasionally. And I also have another book out, came out in December, which I consider to be my life's great work. It's called What the Wind Brings, historical novel. And it's actually shortlisted for another award right now, the Endeavour Award. So that feels good.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. And you're also currently in the process of writing Barbarians of the Beyond, which is a sequel to of another book. So what does it mean for you what is it like writing this book, and has COVID had an effect on it at all?
Okay, COVID has not had a big effect on me except for one part of my life, which is I'm a house sitter. I have been a homeless drifter for 13 years now, going around the world living in other people's houses while I write. And in March, we went off to France for a house sit, and that was to be followed by a house sit in Romania. But we'd only been there about 2 weeks when everything fell apart, and we had to scramble and scrabble to try and get back to BC because we couldn't stay in France. The woman we were house sitting for came home, and it was a bit of a struggle because we kept getting our flights canceled and our train tickets canceled, and finally we had to rent a car and drive up to Paris Charles de Gaulle airport and crossing our fingers that the flight we were booked on was actually going to take off. And it did. We got back to BC and we camped out with a friend of mine in Saanich on Vancouver Island for a while. But none of that interferes with sitting somewhere and tapping on the keyboard, so I continued to work. The book you mentioned, Barbarians of the Beyond, that's a working title. It is a sequel to a 5-volume series of books called The Demon Princes, which really aren't demons, they're just master criminals. And it was written by my favorite and mentoring kind of science fiction fantasy author, Jack Vance. He wrote these 5 books over a series of about 20 years, I think. And I made an agreement with his son, John. Jack died in 2013, to do a sequel to this. And well, it's, you know, I'm walking in the footsteps of someone I've read and admired since 1962, and it feels really quite special and wonderful.
And you mentioned how you are house sitting and you get to visit all these other countries and take in these different experiences. So does that have an effect on your writing as well?
I suppose it does. It's not like a direct kind of effect, but I've now lived in 12 countries, and I have literally been around the world because we went from one country to another and ended up back where we started. I think it helps to live in different places, in different cultures, and not be a tourist living in a hotel, but, you know, live in a house or an apartment and go down to the store and learn to speak French and Italian in order to, you know, get the groceries. When we arrived in Italy, all I knew was spaghetti and arrivederci, but by the time I'd been there a year, I could speak basic Italian. And you find out that there are little things that you would never know unless you lived in the country. Like, you have no idea what an Italian post office is like on pension day unless you've actually been in one. It's like no other experience I've ever had. And the little things, you go to France and the sense of community, and the same in Italy too, that the people are different with each other. If you live in an Italian village, every time you go out in the afternoon, you'll see finely dressed old men standing in groups and talking about stuff. And it's what they do all day, I think. Whereas if you drive through a French village, you won't see a single human being on the street normally, unless it's, you know, shopping time. It's the cultural differences are just, you have to absorb them. And I think given that I write stories set in cultures that don't actually exist, you know, like far future or magical realms or so on, it's useful to have been outside my own culture and experienced how things can be so different.
Well, that sounds really interesting, and thank you so much for joining us today, Matt.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
I'm happy to be joined today on Primetime Local News by Jack Burnett, and Jack is the managing editor of the Old Farmer's Almanac. Welcome. We are pleased to be speaking with you today, Jack.
Stacey, it's great to be with you and your viewers.
Well, I want to talk about the Almanac itself, and this has obviously been around for many, many years. But for those who may not be familiar, tell me just a little bit about what the Almanac actually is.
Sure. The Old Farmer's Almanac was founded 230 years ago outside Boston. The special Canadian edition is about 40 years old. So the Old Farmer's Almanac is the one with the yellow cover, hole in the corner, and so on. And we have everything from weather, which is only about 5% of the Old Farmer's Almanac, to food, gardening, history, humor, astronomy, just about everything you can think of. So we're very fortunate that we have many hundreds of thousands of members of our family in all across Canada, and especially in the Saskatchewan, Alberta area.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the weather predictions because a lot of people look forward to the predictions that come out from the Almanac. So can you tell me what the weather forecast is predicted? Let's start with the winter first for this area for the upcoming, I guess probably in the next couple months, we'll see some snow.
Yeah, we'll actually see the snow, beginning of normal time, late November, December. The fall, September this month and October doesn't look like anything particularly out of the ordinary. Winter, for those folks who already have their OFA, Old Farmer's Almanac, they'll see that we have what's called a snow train that starts over to a little bit to the east of you, but includes you too, which we see as a series of storms sort of chugging across the prairies and actually ending up over in Atlantic Canada throughout much of the winter. We didn't know how else to describe it. If you look at a meteorology textbook, you're not going to find the term snow train. But, that's what we see for your area. We see more snow. We see it colder than normal. And just generally a good old Lloydminster winter.
And now what about looking forward to the summer of 2021? What's that looking like? Because I know you guys do predict well in advance.
Yeah, summer we're seeing being relatively mild, but slightly wetter than normal. That being said, we don't see any particular problems for crops and farming, that type of thing, because the increment is really not that great. So wetter than normal, yes. Something to worry about, not really.
And now, how do you predict so far in advance? What type of models do you use, or how do you go about it? Because I know the old joke is that most weathermen can never get the weather right on a daily basis. So how does it work when you're predicting that far ahead?
Right. Well, that's an excellent question. We actually use the same three factors that were used by the founder of the Old Farmer's Almanac, who was a guy named Robert B. Thomas outside Boston in 1792. So he used three things. They were what we now call climatology, which is the long-term weather trends in an area. Of course, back then he was looking at journals and talking to travelers and things like that. The second thing is what we now call meteorology, kind of the science of the air, how air masses work in a particular area because of mountains or lakes or whatever. The third thing, though, that we take into consideration is solar radiation. So this guy Thomas, he had a notion that solar radiation and sunspots had something to do with weather. So that's how he started making his forecasts, and they turned out to be accurate. So his almanac, which at the time was Thomas's Farmer's Almanac, eventually in the 1840s they added the name old to it because it became the oldest one. One of the reasons being that it was accurate. So by now, of course, it's all been computerized. And what we do, Stacy, is that we take patterns we try to find patterns in the past that resemble the present. Then, knowing those three things that are important to us, we go back in the past and we see what happened next back then. And we say, knowing those three things, would it make sense for what happened next back then to happen next now? So it's all computerized. That's kind of how we do it. But we are in the fourth year of a 4-year experiment where we're going to tweak our old formula ways a little bit to account for climate change. We think we have that figured out. So we're really close to our average accuracy of about 80%. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down, but we're usually right around that number.
Now, also in the Almanac, there's so many other things in there. You've got gardening tips, there's recipes, moon cycles, astronomy, astrology, a little bit of everything. How do you decide what goes into this, and how long does it take you to put it together?
Well, again, great questions. We have many different possibilities for things to put into the Old Farmer's Almanac Canadian edition. And people often ask me on shows like yours, well, where do they come from? And the answer is they come from your viewers, because at the Old Farmer's Almanac, we actually pick up the phone. Human beings do that. We answer mail, we answer emails, and people send us ideas from all over Canada. And I have to say, especially the prairies. So that's how we get the input that we need to keep on doing it year after year. And to answer your question, we're already hard at work on the 2022 Old Farmer's Almanac Canadian edition, and we're starting to get some ideas rounded up for the 2023 edition too. So we work well in advance to make sure that everything is checked out very carefully before it finally goes on sale in the August before the cover year.
Now, Jack, if anybody wants to get a hard copy of the Almanac, I know some people have moved to digital and prefer that, but if they'd like to go old school and get a hard copy, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of people do go to almanac.ca, which is our huge website with lots of free stuff. But if you can't get it, you should be able to get it locally. Drugstores, hardware stores, big box stores, supermarkets, any place that carries books and magazines, they should be able to get it. If they can't, but we really hope that they can support local. If they can't, then amazon.ca also has lots of them.
Okay, well, Jack, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today. We really enjoy looking through all of the articles, and I noticed that social media, your Facebook page has a lot of updates on this as well. So if people are looking to submit ideas or want updates, what's the best way to get that information to you?
Best way is to go to almanac.ca and use the feedback feature, and believe me, we get them and we answer them. So it's as I say, we especially appreciate folks in the prairies and in your area. We know they participate and value the same things we do. So it's always nice to reach out to them.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jack. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today, and we'll keep track and see how accurate your weather forecasts are here heading into the next couple of months.
Stacey, thank you very much, and stay warm.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Primetime Local News. Have a great night.